You're listening to the Junto Podcast, a podcast about leadership, faith, community, and pretty much anything else that you want to talk about. Visit us at www.juntopodcast.com. That's JUNTO podcast.com. Thanks for stopping by and enjoy the show. Episode 81, welcome to the Junto Podcast, or welcome back if you've joined us. And man, it's good to be with you guys. So good to be with you guys. Heather and I, we're on our summer schedule, releasing every 2 weeks just so we can kind of take this time to spend some time with the fam and enjoy the summer days, maybe catch a good tan and some rays in the process. But Heather, we're back. Episode 81, first summer release, by the way.
Summer episode.
Yeah,
I like
first
it.
summer
I'm
episode.
Excited about it. It's good. I feel good.
I feel good. Yeah, me too.
Yep.
Feel really good. What are we talking about today, by the way? What's going on?
We are talking about managing introvert, extrovert, those different personality traits, and how to properly manage and deal with. And also even leading from those traits.
Absolutely leading
extrovert.
from. You know, if you're like us, it's almost that we always say like the yin and yang, and everybody knows, you know, relationships, everyone says opposites attract, this whole yin and yang principle, and how we are...
Not the yin yang twins.
Not the yin yang twins.
I'm just kidding.
Boy, I can tell what era you went to high school in. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see it. And if you have been with us anytime, you know that we always bring this thing back to a perspective of faith. And with that, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate your support as always. So thank you. Yep. But yeah, certainly interesting concept with just differences, not only in relationships, as we'll discuss, but leading. We always talk about leadership principles and things of that nature. So how do we lead with different personalities? And this is something I'm battling or walking through right now. It can be challenging. So
Right. Everybody's different. We talked about that a million times. Personality traits, people don't jive, people don't get along. But how is it when you're trying to manage and balance all that? So
it can
we're going to talk about a few of those things. And like I said, coming from some of those personality traits and dealing with that, growth, progress, friendships. I mean, this is friendships, any relationship. Work relationship, church relationship. It's all over.
Yeah.
So...
Well, and what's crazy through this process too, and just reading some of this stuff, I think we can have misconceptions or maybe even thoughts about ourselves that might not be right. Like I consider myself to be extroverted, but also reading about some of these introverted traits, I'm kind of like, there are definitely certain parts of me that can relate to the introvert.
Yeah. And maybe different circumstances that you're in, right?
That's it. And I think we're a mix of both. Maybe it's just the dominant side of who we are, but yes.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah, good.
So I know we're going to be reading. We got an article. We always try to find maybe a relevant article based on the content we're talking about. And we're going to be reading from leaders.com today, Introvert versus Extrovert, how to recognize and manage the differences. And as always, we give our own 2 cents about our own experiences, our own thoughts, and what we've encountered in leadership as well. So these articles are always just jumping ground or conversation starters,
Sometimes
if you will.
we give 2.5 cents.
Maybe even, all the way up to $1, I would say.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big jump, right?
Yeah, I won't say that out loud, what I got confused about.
Okay, got you.
I don't embarrass myself. Yeah, so let's start out with some definitions.
Please.
Okay, let's get some grounding here. Let's start with the basics. So an introvert, what is an introvert? An introvert is someone who, more often than not, prefers to spend time on their own. That doesn't mean they don't enjoy social interactions, but they often find that they need time to recharge their energy after being in a social situation.
Gosh.
Okay? They also tend to spend time deep in thought. When they do go out and interact with others, they enjoy spending time with their closest family and friends. They prefer to keep a close circle of people they trust near them.
Yeah.
Okay?
Instead of what? A large group of acquaintances. That's interesting.
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yep. Very good. Okay, we've got pros and cons here of introverts, but, I think if you're an introvert, You know your cons, maybe you know the pros, whatever.
Yeah.
We don't have to go into all that. So, what is an extrovert?
Let's see.
An extrovert is someone who loves being around others. They thrive in social situations, often chatting up other people with enthusiasm. Most extroverts know how to be charismatic. They find that social settings are a great way to recharge their batteries.
Wow.
Extroverts tend to be more impulsive. And while they can think deeply about issues too, they usually prefer to talk things through with others.
Yes.
As long as there are other people around, they will feel in their element.
Interesting.
Which is unlike introverts. They normally have a large group of family and friends they love spending most of their free time with.
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So that's the basics.
Those are the basic gist.
There's much more to it. But,
yeah, it definitely goes deeper than that. But if we're looking at it from a surface level, those are probably some key identifiers on some traits that are characteristics of introvert and extrovert.
Yeah.
And, how do we manage these things? When I say manage, not only from a professional a workplace type of situation, but how do we manage it in a relationship, a husband and wife? That
Your
can
children.
Children.
Sometimes our kids are direct opposites, and we're like, what
it's
do
hilarious.
we do with these people in our house?
Yeah, it's like, whoa. And you can see the differences in them immediately. You can see, especially if you have multiple like us, we have four. So we can see a varied range of personality from introvert to extrovert. And obviously they're little miniatures of you and I, but still, those personality
what are we?
traits.
What would you say you are?
I think my dominant personality, I think, is definitely extroverted. I do have some introverted tendencies, and I think most people would say, whether you're introvert or extrovert, you probably have one, at least some of the other, but I think the dominant personality for me would definitely be extroverted.
Yeah.
And you, ma'am?
I agree with you. I agree. Oh, definitely introverted or introvert. I think the time that I've spent with you and the longevity of our marriage, what are we going on, 22 years? And then add some of our dating in there, some years, 4 years. So we've spent a lot of time together, lots of years. And I think you've pulled a lot of that extrovert that was deep down in me out.
Yes.
In different situations. But ultimately, I think my main personality would be introvert.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good, though. I think if we were both like each other, we would probably not jive.
Yeah, I think we'd probably have lots of issues, I would think.
Yeah.
We'd get into a lot of trouble if we were both like you.
Well, or if we were both like you. But at the same time, there are times when we're like, I'm sure you wish I was a little more introverted, and
really, this dude got us. Now we got to go talk to these people. Yes, I've had those thoughts.
Yeah, and there are times I wish you were more extroverted.
This girl won't talk to nobody.
Girl, good Lord, you can't even call nobody. You got to do it online.
We can have nobody over for nothing.
She will. Yeah, exactly. My gosh, can't have no company whatsoever.
That's hilarious. Stop.
Oh my gosh.
Stop. I'm not always like that. It depends on what's going on in my life.
You avoid human interaction
as much as possible.
And I do too, to some degree. But I can deal with it.
Well, this technology has sure helped me to become even more introverted with all this online ordering and groceries. They just make it so easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about some tips now for managing all these different personality traits and opposites of introverts, extroverts. And what does it matter? Why? Yeah. Why do we care?
Why do we care?
Because different folks have different ideas and different ways of doing things, and issues arise. You get folks in a room or on a project or a job trying to do something, and we got extroverts and introverts. They're going to want to do things the complete opposite way.
Well, it's true. Gosh, yeah.
So.
Well, and with that, I think that everybody wants to feel included, and sometimes dominant personalities in the workplace, I can feel a little bit like, oh gosh, it can cause frustration with introverts who may not be able to speak up as easily, and maybe they can begin to feel like their ideas are not being heard. And so really it's the job of the leader in that case to recognize personality traits and then be able to, I guess, formulate a plan that is, for all intents and purposes, this word, inclusive. That's inclusive of people's personalities, their behaviors.
Right.
And then obviously from a leadership and management standpoint, you want to be able to place that person in the right spot in terms of a job. That way they're doing what they like to do or what they're capable of doing. And it does. It brings out the best in them, and it's good for everybody.
Works better for everyone.
That's exactly right.
And it takes both. It's both and. Not one over the other, that's for sure.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, because it's not about one being better than the other. I'm with what I do, just to kind of relate this personally, I'm dealing with that as we speak. I'm, extroverted. I'm kind of out there. As I've gotten older, I really appreciate straightforward communication. And I appreciate that, because I don't really want people to have to wonder or guess about what I'm thinking. And so I try to be forthcoming with that. But I have to understand that because I try to be straightforward sometimes, I have to be aware of how someone might receive that. So I have a teammate who is extremely introverted, like to the nth degree of, like, we're on polar opposites, and really it's challenging. It can be challenging as a leader to kind of know how to manage and bring out the best and make them feel aware. And how do you even let somebody know they're doing a great job? Because not everybody just receives words of affirmation. So what are your thoughts on that?
That's true. Yeah, it's hard. And I think that over the years, I feel like we've learned some of the ways to deal with that, because we know a lot of people. We are in different circles for different things, with church and with the podcast, and you're at the college and just different things. So we're around of a lot of these different personalities, and have been for over the years. We've been in ministry, 14 plus years. So I think that we've learned a lot, definitely. And I would say from my perspective, in the beginning, I'm the admin at the church. And so I deal with a lot of people coming in and needing things and issues. And I kind of know what's happening for the most part in the church. And I know in the beginning, it was always, I didn't want to cause any trouble. I didn't want to offend anyone. I didn't want to. So I wouldn't speak up in situations where it would have done better for that person and all around to speak up.
Exactly.
So I feel like I've learned more how to do that, and not to do it in a way that's forceful or rude, or like, this is the way it should be, because I know it should be this way, and you just need to do it how I'm saying. But doing it in a graceful way of, hey, this isn't working out, or let's try this instead. Just learning how to communicate that you have grace and that you understand everyone's different. Let's work on this together.
That's right.
I think if you come to the table with that attitude, I feel like things are going to work out.
Absolutely. Being genuine. And I would piggyback on that too, that oftentimes we do learn as we go, and we have to change our leadership style. And that's part of it. That's part of management. That's part of leading. It's trying things and learning as you go, learning what works, learning what doesn't work. And I appreciate what you said, because in my view, especially when it comes to communication, oftentimes it is better, even though it might
hurt
feel
in the moment.
Yes, it might feel it can be awkward, or it can be tough. These are tough conversations to have, but it does benefit people, when you're just forthright And so if you're in management right now or leading or even in relationships, I have found that you can't assume that married couples know how to talk to each other. You just can't. So even if you have an area of your life where you could relate this to, whether it's marriage, whether you're in management or you're just going into management or leading your children.
Communicating with them, Lord have mercy.
That's exactly right.
And I want to pull my teeth out sometimes talking to these teenagers.
Boy.
That's a whole other situation.
I'd rather pull their teeth out. That's what I want to do sometimes. No.
Yes, but they have their lives and they are individuals and have their personalities. And so sometimes you can't come at one how you come at the other.
That's exactly right.
Sometimes you have to change your strategy and the way you communicate depending on their personalities, because like I said, this is all over the place. This is market or workplace. This is home. This is friendships. Your friends,
Wow. Yeah.
You have different friend relationships, and they're not all the same.
Well,
they're not all the same.
It's crazy you said that. Leading into this article, you said something about change your approach or change your...
Yes.
Yeah.
Change the way you lead or
and that's crazy because on this list from leadership, now keep in mind this is dealing with management, but you can relate this to anything. We always take articles, whether they're secular or Christian, and we're always going to relate it to us personally. And you can take something that's secular, that's meant for work, but you can apply that easily to your marriage and even to your faith walk. So, but you said something about changing your style. One of the first tips for managing introverts versus extroverts is to change your leadership style as a manager, or whatever title fits you right now. Insert it there. But as a manager, you need to adapt your style to what works best. You can't expect your employees to change for you. Because of this, you must learn how to bring out their best ability. So think about that. You're struggling right now. You don't quite know. Maybe you're the introverted one and you have an employee that's a loudmouth, like their personality is very dominant, and it kind of makes you intimidated, even though you're the one that's the leader. But you're like, oh my gosh, like, how do I manage this guy? How do I manage this girl? I'm introverted and they're all over the place. Change your leadership style. Think about it. It's not that you have to change who you are, but change how you lead. What do you think about that?
I think it's interesting about what you said about leading and when you're managing people and you're managing different groups of people, it's difficult. So
yes,
but isn't that what leadership is?
Yeah,
bringing out the best in the people that are working for you, working with you. Your children, of course, you're their leader. You're molding them into what they're going to become. So there's no reason for them to change their personality. Like there's no fulfillment in that. That's not long lasting.
And I think that's what we do. We expect that sometimes. I'm the world's worst. I was just going to say with my kids, and I it's not that I want them to change, but I compare their life to my experience at that age. Like I was already doing this by then, or I was already working, had a full-time job. It's the whole had to walk 10 miles in the snow type of deal. You know what I mean? Like, it's, gosh.
Yeah.
And Lord help us. Like, because those things, they do leave lasting impressions on your kids. So this is why this stuff is important, guys.
To them, the things that how you come at them, they do.
Yeah.
It shapes who they are and how they feel about themselves.
Yeah.
And with employees or at church, if you're a leader of a ministry, all this is relative. And like I said, just learning to manage and lead and not be overwhelmed and stressed the entire time and completely.
That's exactly right.
You got to figure out a way. You can't stay in the state of stress and like this isn't working. Like, okay, let's pivot. Let's shift.
Right. Let's pivot. Let's move.
Let's take some notes. What's working, what's not working, and let's figure this out. But that's leadership. That's leading in any capacity. Is you can't just say, oh, we're on the right path and we're going to stay on this and nothing's going to get us off. And right.
That's it.
Come on.
Yeah. Junto Podcast, leadership, faith, community. That's what we are. That's what we talk about.
All of it.
That's why these conversations are important. It's why we spend a lot of time talking about this kind of stuff, because it really does in terms of relationship. It matters, and so
it's life.
It's life. Point blank. So one of the second tips is, so we talked about change your leadership style if necessary, and then get educated. Part of being a manager, or you can even relate it to relationship if you're struggling in a marriage right now, but part of being in leading is learning how to lead different types of people. With this in mind, educate yourself on introvert and extrovert qualities. So that's important right there, knowing kind of what's what, knowing some general characteristics.
Knowing your people.
Knowing people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Underneath that real quick, what are some ways that it kind of lists a couple of things? You know how to read all of them, but what are some of the bullets there?
Gotcha.
Some good guidelines on managing introverts
for doing these,
and then extroverts. Yeah.
So with introverts, encourage them. Many introverts will likely prefer to sit back and let others talk around them. Encourage them to speak up. Explain that you value their feedback and want to take their opinion into account.
Yeah.
Ask them, what do you think about this?
Right.
Ask them, do you have any ideas? What is your advice? What would you do in this situation?
Yeah.
That makes someone feel like they're included, they're valued, their voice matters. Really does.
It does.
Introverts have to be prodded.
Yeah, like they have
more than
to be
extroverts.
asked. Yeah.
You extrovert, they're going to tell you what's on their mind and what their advice and their the way they would do something.
Whether you ask for it or not.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Just because an introvert is sitting back and not saying doesn't mean they don't have the ideas.
Yeah.
They just need some help getting it, pull it out a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. I like that.
The next one, don't rely on praise. Introverts don't always respond to praise as a motivating factor. While praise is good to dish out, find other ways to portray a job well done. For example, show introverts the impact of their work on the business. So just saying, hey, you did a great job. Like, hey, look what happened because of you did this.
Yeah.
So
look at the results of your work.
Look at this. And I have to see that it's actually genuine. It's not like a just throwing lip service, just throwing words out.
But see, if you're a young leader or a leader in general, you might not ever think about the types of dynamics in the workplace. You might not think about these things. Like it's insane just to think about how many people are leading and have no clue really how to manage people.
Yeah.
They may have...
And they're stressed.
Yeah, they may be qualified from an educational standpoint. They may have degrees. Maybe they've even been on the job a long time. But guys, I'm telling you, interpersonal or relational types of training, or I guess for lack of a better term, is super important, guys. You have to know how to relate and communicate to and with people.
Yeah. To make things enjoyable for everyone.
That's right.
You don't want to be on the job just stressed all the time, worrying. There are ways. You just got to put in some work.
That's right.
Got to do the work.
That's right.
All right. Set clear expectations. Many introverts just want to get their work done. So a manager needs to be very clear about setting expectations. Establish the right systems and use clarity at all times.
Amen.
Make space for them in the company. At home, make space for your children to be who they are. Sometimes you got to, like I said, you got to pivot. You got to change some things, even though you want things done this way.
Well,
show some grace and
taking
ways to do things.
Taking it back to the whole family and relational thing. In researching this, I don't know where it was, but I was reading an article, and it was basically from the standpoint of a woman telling her story and how she married an extroverted husband. And, that's all great at first and stuff, but you get married and it can be challenging. The things that attracted you to them can be the same thing that wears you out. You know what I'm saying? So, I guess along in the marriage, she was like, don't you ever slow down? He said, I never slow down. Like, that's just not part of who I am. But she talked about embracing her introversion. And one of the examples she gave is that, the friends would come over and, used to I would just push through it, even though I was peopled out, so to speak. But she said once I embraced who I was, I would politely say, well, guys, I think I'm going to sit this one out, or I think I'm going to retire upstairs. And she said, they hugged me and kept on and didn't judge in any way, I guess. And I think she was able to embrace that part of her being an introvert and found some freedom in that. So, we can embrace the parts of who we are without having to feel like we're forced to be somebody we're not.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Definitely. Yeah. We've learned and grown over the years with situations similar to that. So I can definitely relate and see how we've come some ways.
Yeah.
With some things.
We've come so far. Yes.
This last one for introverts, establish a rapport. Not every conversation you have with an introvert will be lengthy and deep, but you should still work to establish a rapport, like a relationship. This is what
relationship.
When
guys.
we say, okay, I was talking to someone the other day. I can't remember who it was, but we were talking about speaking into someone's life. And I said, you can't really speak into someone's life if you don't have a relationship with them and you don't know them. They're not gonna receive.
That's
even
exactly
if you're
right.
giving great advice, even if you're giving the best advice and wisdom, and there's just something different about when someone knows you and you know that person, and there's trust there, and there's a relationship, and there's love. You know that there's an underlying. There's no question.
No,
not to say that there has to be love in the workplace like this, but I'm just saying relationships in general, and in speaking to someone's life.
I think good leaders
having a rapport and knowing.
Yeah, I think good leaders, even in the workplace, while it might not be categorized as love, I think they should care about the team. And,
care for sure.
Yeah, especially
genuine
if you're in
care.
Leadership. Yeah, exactly right. It's just being human and, showing those empathetic types of traits.
Yeah, and them knowing that you have that care.
That's right.
It's a huge deal. Huge deal. Okay, extroverts on the other hand.
Yeah.
These are some ways. Give praise. An extrovert's personality type usually means they love receiving praise for their work.
Let me know how good I did.
You tell me that I'm good. Run out.
I want to know how good I did.
Yes.
Now, come on now.
Make sure you give it when they do a good job. Keep things conversational. As you can expect, extroverts like to talk. When you need to get down to business, keep it conversational. That includes providing critical feedback, which not everybody likes to do, but hey, we got to do it. One-sided conversation isn't very effective in getting through to them. When you're always talking to someone or at someone, never giving them a moment to get there. Because a lot of times someone's sitting there with this in their head. They're like, okay, I need to get this out. Probably especially for extroverts. And they don't get that chance. They're sitting there only thinking about that thing and don't hear anything that you're saying.
I'm going to explode if I don't say this thought, like.
Yes.
Right.
I know people like that.
Oh, yeah.
So, next, prioritize interactions. You should take time out of your day to interact with extroverts. This is especially true when in a remote work environment or at home when you got those ones that you know that those kids, they need some attention, they need some time with you, they need to talk to you.
That's right.
Okay? Allow for those moments. Don't always, no, I'm working, go, I'm busy, go, do something else. Okay? Schedule time with one-on-ones, video calls, check-ins, all that fun stuff.
These are good. Good tips. Again, it's not only for leadership and management, but certainly if you are in leadership and management, apply some of these things. Think about it. Think about your team members and, think about, I don't know, maybe you're struggling right now because it's not that you don't know how to manage an introvert or an extrovert, but maybe you just don't have them in the right place. Maybe they're not able to excel at the work that they're doing because they're introverted in an extroverted role.
Yeah.
And maybe they need to be in a different type of role.
Right.
It's not a lesser role, but a different type of role. And I promise if you begin to do those things and maybe change and learn, educate yourself as we are, that's the whole process of these conversations, leadership, faith, community. That's what it's about. We want to be the best versions of the people that we can be, whether that's, spouses, dads and moms and managers and leaders. Friends, just good old friends.
Leaders,
that's exactly right.
Church, just a regular old congregation goer, whatever.
That's exactly right.
All these relationships matter. And I was going to say something to what you said. Get your people on the right seat on the bus.
That's it.
Everybody's on the bus.
Everybody
has a seat.
All aboard.
Get them on the right seat.
Get them on the right seat.
And it'll all work out.
Yeah.
But you got to do some work to do that, though. You got to know your people. You got to know your stuff. You got to know what you need. All that jazz.
All that fun stuff. All that jazz. Well, and this article ends it. And I think we've already mentioned this early on, but it obviously, you are not in a box as people. You can't just say, well, I'm only extroverted.
Right,
obviously, we're all there are extroverted parts of ourselves, and there are going to be introverted parts. Like even though I consider myself extroverted, like, I'm not, like, don't come in my office and want to talk for a long time. Like, I don't want that.
Not that type of extra.
Right. Like, I'm keeping my door shut. I'm keeping it crashed because I'm trying to avoid some contact. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, it's crazy. You're going to have those different parts of who you are. And there are going to be some extroverted parts and there are going to be some introverted parts.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And the cool thing is, especially as believers, is that we know that God loves us just the way that we are. And
He made us that way.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The Bible tells us that, look, we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and that we know that the Bible says that God has good plans for us, not plans to harm us, but plans to give us a future and a hope. And so those are very, very good things. So any final thoughts about this introvert and extrovert conversation that we're having here?
I learned some stuff. I learned some ways, and I'm gonna utilize them.
Utilize them,
with
girl.
My people.
Utilize them.
And I think we have in some capacity been doing this already. But definitely gonna take this info and use
Run with it, girl.
Especially with my children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's a struggle sometimes.
These streets is tough for these kids.
Communicating and dealing with these children.
Woo.
They're all different and the different ages and different seasons that they're in. And then you mix in culture and all that they've got to deal with. And it's a new age. They're dealing with stuff that we didn't have to deal with back then. It's different. We dealt with stuff.
Crazy. Yeah.
So.
Well, good deal. I hope it's been helpful to you. I hope it's been an encouragement. And obviously, you can find us at juntopodcast.com. That's JUNTO podcast.com. And that's right. This is not only the Junto podcast, but it's the Together podcast. And obviously, Junto is a play off the Spanish word junto, which means together. So we are the Together podcast.
We're together in this. We're together.
All the time. Every conversation we have is always going to be about us doing life together, because life is better when we do it together. That's right. Hey, thanks for joining us. Hope you got something out of this conversation about extroverts and introverts. And we'll see you next time on episode 82.
And let us know which one of those you are.
Come on. Exactly. Comment below. Send us a message. Do something.
Do it.
We'll see you next time on the Together.
Together podcast.
Wow,
I missed that one. Sorry.
Let's try it again. We'll see you next time on the Together podcast. Y'all be blessed. Thank you for listening to the Junto podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can find our link to YouTube and social media at juntopodcast.com. Remember to subscribe, like, and follow. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.